okay, so Codexel and I, we got together separately. That makes any sense. Individually, we sat down and we compiled a top 10 cards of Gwent. Now, this is going to be fun because, like, what are the metrics? What did he use? What did I use? We didn't discuss any of this. So, this is the first time. I mean, I saw his list, but I've totally forgotten it. I literally, he sent me his list. I put it on the thing you're about to see, and there we are. So, it's going to be, there it is. There's the cool thing I did. There's the graphics. I'm pretty proud of this. I know. I amused myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to reveal them slowly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why we picked the cards we did, and then kind of discuss and see if we have any similarities. So we're going to go, my number 10, and then Codexel's, and then mine, and then so on and so forth. And we have a cool new way of revealing it that I'm excited about. I am. And by the way, that picture up there of the child, that one day will be Codexel, as he will, not the child, but the the picture above me.
No, that's a real life picture of me.
There it is. Okay, that's Codexel. There it is. He's hiding his face for shame for being on the show, but that's Codexel. You had it here first.
It's just too early over here, man. Like, I just want to go back to bed.
See, thank you for being on the show. I know it's early. All right, so.
No, I'm just teasing. Come on. Anyway, let's get to the list.
Number 10 for me in the slow reveal. I put Spear Tip in there. Now, I will, in full disclosure, full honesty, I had number 9 as number 10, which you can't see it. I'm still blocked it out, so I'm pretty happy about that. And I put Spear Tip in there because of the fourth Passive Floor champion, Freddie Babes, who will be on the show Friday, by the way. Little tease there. But I saw the tremendous value of old Spear Tip, and it was insane the value that he played. He won that tournament basically by just putting the tip in.
Yeah. I mean,
so I did there.
That, like, do you want to do my number 10 reveal before discussing?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Codexel's number 10, Spies.
Do spies need an explanation? I mean, I think they're basically included in almost all decks. Some decks don't need to. Like, only archetypes that have strong carryovers through, like, resilience can really get away without spies, I think. Oh, Ethne can as well, because she can throw spies back with her hero power. But that's about it.
So you're talking about, is there a particular spy that stands out for you? Yavin?
Oh my god, they're all good. Like, Stennis is so good. Yavin is in a deck within a faction which feasts on card advantage. Cantarella's ability is really... I mean, they're all just amazing. Like, you can't maybe do this. One thing I will say is that I think...
I literally just did.
I think only thing I can say is that I think Donar is a bit subpar. And also, you're ruining the rest of the list if you're asking me to pick out a specific spy.
I'm sorry. Like I said, totally. And then the Flog, that's a solid tip. The Flog and I are on the same page. I'm loving it. Okay.
One thing I would say though is let's look at Spear Tip, because Spear Tip, I might as well say right now, it almost made it onto my list. It is just absolutely insane. But one of the reasons why I'm not quite sold on it being like straight top 10 is that it's slightly anti-synergistic because of its transformation. You can't buff it. You can't put things on it like weather immunity or any kind of token, and it can't keep it because it will transform and it'll lose it. So it's anti-synergistic with buffs and the monster passive. So you don't really want to keep Spear Tip in a lot of situations.
Man, anti-synergistic. Woo! I'm mentally touching myself, if that does anything. Okay.
You're that teacher vibe just flowing through the room.
Yeah, man. Anti-synergistic. Loving it. Okay. That's really good. And you just shit on my 10th best card, so I appreciate that. It's very sweet of you to do that on our first show. Okay. So, number 9, First Light. Okay. So this one is obvious. I'm probably, if I'm being honest, a little low maybe, because it is in almost every deck that you see. A little less maybe in the upper echelon, but it's just a really solid card. Just for the rally effect, the clear weather. I think it's a little low, but I have it at number 9.
I'm really curious. I'm gonna be really curious to count up, like, between the 20 that we have on our best cards in the game lists, how many of them are gonna be bronze? Because bronzes are the backbones of all your decks, and as far as I'm concerned, like, First Light is the only card that you can include in any deck that is neutral. That you can just include it and it will work. It will just work because of the rally component.
This
That,
is a great.
that's
This
why
is a
it's
great
amazing.
comment in the stream. Now, one thing about Gwent After Dark is it's an interactive experience. One of the things that when we started the talk show format was that I want to interact with the audience, and a lot of people don't do that. I watch this current talk show; they just kind of just talk. This is about the crowd, right? So, 8-8, and I gotta please tell me how to pronounce your name because I'm butchering it. A great thing. The Stennis Bork interaction last patch in Control Radovid was insane.
Yeah, it was, but at the same time, I think the more insane thing was the Radovid ability, right? Because the main thing is Bork fundamentally is reasonably low tempo. I mean, it's pretty high tempo, like it was back then, reasonably high, but it's not that high. It's just a gold. It's just a gold body that can't be buffed. So you could especially back in those days when you had stuff like Hawker Healers and Clan Haymae Scouts buffing entire rows, you could just tempo past it and just pass and force him to play more cards. The interaction was pretty borked, but only because, I mean, no pun intended, but it was pretty borked because Radovid was so good at suppressing his opponent's points and preventing him from getting out-tempoed in such a way that made Bork irrelevant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, makes total sense. That's good. See, look at that. See, y'all thought that he was just gonna shit on my stuff. See, he's getting shit on all y'all. That's what I'm talking about. No, there's good insight. No.
I'm just providing what I think. I think
that's good. That's why you're here. Oh god.
I think it's fascinating though. Sorry about that. I think it's fascinating that so much of the game has changed just by the tempo changes in the game. Like how much of a swing is possible now between all the cards. Like that just changes the entire landscape of the game with arguably minimal design change.
I totally agree. Last night's show talked about just the subtle changes. People's minds were blown. I got some emails to shifuthecards@gmail.com. People talking about how they didn't realize how much has changed since Witcher 3. A lot of people had never even seen a Witcher 3 card. And then
yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Bit. Yeah. Your ninth card is Saskia. Which, by the way, a side note, we're kind of learning about each other as we do this show. It's going to be amazing. But did you ever play The Witcher 2?
Yes, only once though. I've always wanted to go back to it, but I don't know. I just I found the combat quite difficult actually.
Oh, dude, it was brutal. I mean, it was brutal. I bought an Xbox One just to play the backwards compatibility version on the Xbox. I couldn't do it on the keyboard, and Saskia was a really key character, and that's what brought it to mind. So why is Saskia in your top 10?
Okay, so why Saskia? Well, just looking at the effect, she can basically get a point for any non-gold on the board, and she's really arguably one of the few golds in the game that can get a 20+ point swing, and a reasonable top deck if you pull around 3. I mean, one of the things that I'm considerate of when I'm thinking about how good cards are is their top deck value as well. Some cards have awful top deck value, like Geralt Igni. Yes, it's a good card, but you don't really want to see it as the top card of your deck, almost ever, because it only excels in long round situations, whereas Saskia, especially considering that she even buffs Roach, is it's just the extra point that is so good when you're short-handed and you're going one card or 2 cards against 2 cards,
Yeah, no, I like that. I didn't have her. I didn't put her in my top 10, I don't believe, just because she's so Soyatel. I try to be more universal, but some cards, obviously, I like Spear Tip. But no, you're right. Saskia's a really good choice. My number 8 was a Priestess of Freya, after just sitting here saying I try to go more universal. I made it to rank 15 legend, or whatever you want to call it, with a kind of a hybrid Skellige discard kind of thing. And I mean, I can't think of a Skellige deck that doesn't run Priestess of Freya. All the way back to the very beginning, one of my first decks I did, where you could, if you remember the Chain Resurrection, like how many times have you heard Hail Modern Freya, Mother Priestess and Crone over and over again, where you could pull them like one after the other, after the other, after the other. I mean, Priestess of Freya to me is an MVP of Skellige, and so I have her in my top, them in my top 8. And
fair enough.
H. It's H with an H like in change, part of my real name, so it's so weird. I don't mind any pronunciation though. Thank God, because I'm going to butcher your name. Thank you for being understanding. Okay, so I have Priestess of Freya, and your counter is Priscilla. I mean, spoiler alert, she is in my list. I have her higher, but tell Priscilla.
I'm curious to talk about like Priestess of Freya first. So like, why don't you like you provided some of your reasons for it? I find that quite curious because I totally agree that she's so stable. Like the Priestess of Freya has to be like seen as some of the strongest staples of Skellige. Like I've seen very few decks not run any at all, partly just because their faction passive is a lot worse without any resurrection ability. But it just jumps out at me that like, wow, they are a shadow of them for themselves. Like they used to be like ruffle stomp cards when you could go like restore into Sigurdrifa, into Priestess of Freya, into like a gigantic Clan Twitch like skirmisher, and then like, you think that I only get points from your resurrections? No, sorry, my resurrections. I also get some from yours. It's just, it was just like insane.
Yeah, I mean, I had a my first kind of meme deck, I guess, what I built was the Camby deck. You know, the first Camby Can, I called it the Camby Can deck. And I mean, every time I play, it's the exact same thing. I just drop Camby, play a couple cards, hold a Rejuvenation, and just hit Resurrection. Then the Resurrection, Sigfrida, Priestess, whatever the heck I wanted. And at that point, it was game over. It was just ridiculous. And still strong, like you said, still strong. Especially if you look at the Wounding Skellige you mentioned is one of the top tier or up there. You can't pull off a Wounding Skellige without Priestess of Freya because you got to get that Axeman back for later on. It's just such a strong Skellige component. I had to put it in the top 8 overall.
Fair enough. In my mind, I always thought of them as the quiet workhorse of the deck. You know, like unimpressive, like not really like flashy, but they get so much of the work done, and it's. I think the other bronze cards really steal the show by having the massive numbers, right? But yeah, like now, definitely a good card.
No, you're good. H had a good comment. Priestess of Freya, worst card in round 1, best card any other time. Exactly. She's incredibly good, but when I get 2+ Resurrects in my opening hand, I want to start playing some other deck. Yeah. Given how much of a round 1 emphasis there is in the meta right now. Yeah, exactly. Very strong point, H. Yes, I agree. And then, but still, you get her in round 2 or 3, like you said, it's like the best feeling in the world in Gwent. All right, so let's go. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Priscilla now, or should we talk about when she props up on the list later?
Talk Priscilla. Yeah, Priscilla. Go ahead.
So I feel like Priscilla was higher on the list, like back when she gave both cards face up. That partial information is surprisingly high impact, actually, like because eventually, it becomes a percentage gamble, right? Like, oh, what's the chance that I'm going to get something worse than what I'm being faced with now, rather than a full. I mean, it was basically like a Stennis on steroids without card advantage before. And the fact that she could get rezzed so many times is a huge part of why she's so valuable to the deck. She's basically auto-included in Northern Realms every single time.
No, I agree. And especially because of her low point value, King of Beggars pulls her. The King of Beggars Priscilla combo is, I don't know how many times I've seen that or played it myself.
Yeah, it just fits so well into that. Like, it's almost the kind of card that could work just by being one power. It's so good.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Number 7 for me, Elven Mercenary. Again, this one could be much, much higher. I have I mean, Soyatel. I don't know of a Soyatel deck. I'm sure there are, but I don't know of many that don't run Elven Mercenaries.
Yeah, True Dwarfs. If you run True Dwarfs, you might not run Elven Mercs.
True Door. Okay.
But, yeah, but at that point, you're just relying on hard resilience power and just you don't really care about thinning your deck, you know.
Right.
So,
But other than that,
if you're just going for True Dwarf synergy, there's no that like you can get away without Elven Mercs, but the reality is most Dwarf decks will run Elven Mercenaries just because you can get extra value out of spells.
exactly. I mean, and aren't they like the core staple to deck thinning?
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said that like thinning in and of itself isn't necessarily a good. Like, it generally is because it promotes efficiency and stuff. But like, unless you're getting like some actual stable value out of the things that you pull out of your deck. I mean, imagine if all the spells in your deck were just Dimeridium Shackles. I mean, would that make the Elven Mercs in the deck good? No, not really. Like they have to serve a very specific purpose, like buffing up like those Hawker supports, or proccing Isengrim to really make that kind of chain like especially worth it.
Very good. You're number 7. The King of Beggars.
Yeah, one of those ones that could just be higher. I mean, it's the most included neutral index, I think, by far. It's just, I mean, I think that just speaks for itself, like how good it is.
Yeah, I remember when I saw your list, I thought, God, how did I not put King of Beggars in? But I didn't want to change it. I wanted to keep it, what I had. But you're right. That is such a strong, awesome card. One of my favorite combos with King of Beggars early on is the King of Beggars Doo-Doo combo.
Oh, yeah?
I loved it. I had so much success with pulling out Doo-Doo and just winning games with King of Beggars late game. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I've been trying to make the most efficient Scoia'tael chain with King of Beggars and like taking out all the other 4s and just making Elven Mercs. And it's generally pretty disgusting to like King of Beggars into an Elven Merc, into a First Light, into an Elven Merc, into Decoy, into King of Beggars, into an Elven Merc. That's pretty silly. I've done that before.
Gross. That is so gross. I must do this.
It's. I'm gonna try to see like what I can do with Isengrim and maybe try that in a variant. But yeah, like if you can clean up the number of targets that King of Beggars has and really tier your power, it can make your deck so much better just because it makes it more reliable.
That's crazy. That's pretty good. Okay. Number 6 for me, Priscilla. So we were actually really close, 6 and 8. I have her just because obviously she's great. It's exactly what you said. She has been reduced in power because you can't pull her, you can't resurrect her with the healers, medics, field medics. You can't get her from there anymore, and she does have the different face down, so she dropped a little lower. Still a little bit higher than you, but basically about the same, 6-8, about the same thing.
Yeah.
And your 6 is Dagon.
I mean, it is just obscene tactical flexibility. Dagon is just amazing. It's just, I mean, words can't describe. Like you can win rounds just off of using a weather. You can use First Light in a like whenever you want to pull out a combo piece. Like it's part of the reason why it's so good with Consume, because even though you're not that likely to use weather, you can pull out a Necker Warrior if you don't pull any Necker Warriors. You can pull out a Necker if you don't pull any Neckers. Like, there's just so much that hero ability can do, all with the threat of being able to weather down any row for a round whenever you want, as long as you have card advantage. Pretty silly.
When I saw that, I thought, again, just like your King of Beggars, your 7 and 6, 8, 7, and 6, well, all of your cards are so strong. You're right. I mean, that is a great pick. Dagon is so he's on. I don't know if there's any other here. I don't want to spoil it, but is he your pick for strongest hero?
Straight up. No, okay, so this is one of the things that I want to be clear is that having a stronger hero power doesn't necessarily mean the strongest actual deck to play, because in a vacuum things can be the strongest or the weakest. Like in a vacuum, Nilfgaardian Knight is the strongest bronze. Yeah, it really. I think in a vacuum that's almost undeniable. It just has the biggest points value for very minor downside. On the other hand, you can't run multiple of them because you're just waiting for Gigny to hit you, right? So is it really that good of a bronze? Not really. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I'm seriously, when you break it down, and I'm enthralled with what you say. You're very insightful, and you're right. It's a very low downside. Reveal a card, so what? But you're right. You just get smashed with Gigny.
Yeah. So, like, I'd say Dagon as a card. I mean, you compare all the leader cards individually. Dagon is the best. On the other hand, it's without a doubt in my mind, like Henselt right now is good. Can give it a run for its money because of the combo pieces it can assemble. Like Henselt as an ability, is it arguably that strong? Not really. You can make 7 units into gold, give them +2 each. Fantastic. That's what, like 14 maximum. Then you add in your siege towers. Oh wait, this hero power is pretty disgusting, right?
Yeah.
So like these are the things to think about. Yeah, and in a vacuum, Dagon is the best leader card. Is it the best leader deck? Not necessarily.
That's smart. Yeah, I agree with what you said. That's really good. It's really good. My favorite hero, and still just again because it's the one I finally broke through with. I love King Bran from the synergy of getting those cards into your, getting basically Morkvarg out and all the different combos you could pull out of your deck and run through, especially with discard Skellige. That was just a nasty combo. Now it'd probably have to be, I like Voltest a lot, simply just because I'm running a Skynet deck. So anyway, for me it varies on whatever deck I'm running. But yes, I think you're right. I think Dagon in a vacuum, because of the fact that he weathers whatever or pulls a card, that's pretty strong. Especially now, the Flog has a great question. I wonder how many balance adjustments we'll see when open beta hits. So many auto includes right now. Not sure what CDPR's view is on that.
Okay,
yeah.
So wow, that's a massive point. First thing I think they have to do is bring the silvers into line. Like golds aren't that much of a problem, partly because there aren't that many golds right now, and golds tend to be more like some golds are just points based, right? And those will always find some place in many archetypes, maybe just a few archetypes. But other cards like Vatier are hugely archetype focused and will only appear in those archetypes. And the moment those archetypes become viable, they'll see play. It's just inevitable because if you're running a reveal deck, you're going to run Vatier. If you're not, you probably should revise your deck building, right? On the other hand, you've got cards like Assassination that just are kind of unplayable because of competition from other points-based golds, and those we'll need to look at. You can't just nerf points-based golds until Assassination becomes viable, because then you've got some pretty awkward game design, right? Like you're just pushing the meta into some weird place where you're hoping Draug is going to be dominating all these mini boards, right? Yeah. So I think the main thing is bring the silver into the line, and other things will fall into place. Like Priscilla, don't make her auto include. She needs a nerf. Like King of Burgers needs a nerf. And Burgers come into the game, but different interactions and different synergies will come into the fore, and then you've got different decks. Woohoo!
Yeah,
that's the first step anyway.
And H comes up with, "Don't give up on King Bran. Still great." That's what I keep telling myself. I did play it in Challenger though and did well. So he did actually really well in the Challenger as well. So yeah, King Bran, Skellige.
King Bran's good, man.
Yeah.
Dude. Actually, on a side note, I remember back before Christmas when I was experimenting with Bran, and this was back in the day when you would discard 2 and draw any card from your deck into your hand.
God.
And I was trying to do like Ceres stuff and trying to manipulate it so that I could just set up some kind of weird pass situation so I could have card advantage to play like Ceres or something. It was really strange.
It sounds
but kind of make it work.
That was a horrible hero ability, man.
Ooh. Yeah, that just felt like like going into a game with like a weight on your leg and you were just drowning.
Yeah, it's like I want to a handicap. Yeah, I want to play with a deck that makes it really tough to win. So I would do a little end around here. This is something I'm really excited about. We're gonna try to finish this segment. I want to keep it to an hour. Well, no, this is good. This is really good. I want to keep it to an hour show, and what we'll do is we'll just continue tomorrow where we leave off for the audience and for the YouTube people that are watching. We're going to leave it wherever we stop at 11 o'clock, so 14 minutes. We'll keep on going, and we're just going to pick it up. I'm sorry?
Let's push on then. Let's push on.
Yeah, okay. So we're just going to, just so you know, there we go. So we're going to 5. 5 for me. 5 for me is Eglis. 5 for me is Eglis, or a glazed donut, whatever you want to call him, or her. I mean, obviously, do I need a lot of top level people. I mean, Eglis is in almost every deck that I've seen. It's just a really strong card to replay a special card you've already played, especially late game. So it's a late game play to where you can win a game based on something you used to win probably in round 1, or to double play a Commander's Horn, or to find that lacerate in your deck to clean out Neckers in round 3, or whatever it is, or a weather, more than likely Aeromancy. Although and the reason why she's lower is when it changed Aeromancy, for me anyway, it used to be you could replay the card Aeromancy and then pick a different weather. Now you can only play that same weather that you played off Aeromancy the first time. That nerf dropped Saskia down Eglis down a little bit.
Yeah, I can totally understand why. Like, that was just stupid. But frankly, for me, Aeromancy's lost quite a lot of value in Escoia'tael anyway because they lost their agility, which is a shame. I mean, I can understand why they did that, but like without agility, the only row you can weather like reliably is siege. And if you notice, like Escoia'tael don't have any naturally weather immune units, like by design, they don't have any. So they're not the only ones. Like I think Northern Realms actually has one. So yeah, they're the only faction with that.
Yeah, you're right. I was trying to think. You're right. Yeah, because they put the the cavalry, I believe.
Yeah. So the point is like Escoia'tael are more weak to it. That's not to say that Aeromancy isn't good. Aeromancy is good in Escoia'tael because Aeromancy is a good card. But it's a little less synergistic with Escoia'tael than it has been in the past when you could just stack any other row that you want, right?
Yes.
So I can totally understand, and I totally agree that a Glace, First Light getting that change as well, so that it got the Aeromancy treatment, that also made a Glace slightly worse. But yeah, in my book, it's a bit higher. But what was mine for the same number?
All right, yours, Elven Mercenary. So mine, it was 7. Yours, it's 5. Again, we see similar ratings.
Yeah, so it's about in the same range. Like, I don't think it needs too much explanation. Like, it's the bread and butter. It's in my mind, it's one of the best bronzes in the game. Like, if not the best bronze in the game. It just does everything like you want, and is only really a dead draw in a very, very, very small set of circumstances. Like, it's just amazing.
I agree. Number 4 for me is Geralt Igni. I mean, I just love the card. First of all, I love Geralt. Love the book, so I felt like I had to put Geralt in there. It's won me so many games, so many games. I'm a control player by trade, but if I run an offensive heavy deck, I always want to put a Geralt Igni, so I feel at least I have some defense in case we're having this massive shootout. I want to be able to take out 12 to 15 to 18 to 20 points in one swing. So I have Geralt Igni as my number 4.
Interesting. I suppose we'll cover that in tomorrow's show. And just for a bit of controversy, to throw it out there. Geralt Igni didn't make it into my top 10 list, although it was close. But it also makes it onto my overrated list. So.
Yes, I know, and I want to discuss it. That's a good tease for tomorrow. Yes, because I think that'd be fun to talk about that. So let's go to your number 4. Roach.
I mean, it's just great. Like, one of the things that is worth noting is, there, like, if you look at the cards that thin from your deck onto your board, and this is a key difference. I'm in total agreement with Swim on this one. Like, if it thins from your deck onto your board, that's way better than thinning from your deck into your graveyard, right? So it does that, and then it also comes back every single time, and it has the potential to be, like, in 3 rounds and buffed multiple times by base strength. Like, it's just such a great card.
No, I mean, I want to say Roach is coming for. That sounds gross. Oh God, Roach I think is number 3 for me. Yeah. So, I mean, we're starting to see some very similar choices for our decks. I have Roach at number 3 for exactly the same reason you said. It's kind of one. I thought I had it 3 or 2. I couldn't remember. I mean Roach. I mean it's just what you said. The utility, the deck thinning, to be able to buff it. It always comes back. It's a phenomenal card.
I mean the fact that, like, monster players spend time and resources and turns, and turns are a resource as much as any other in any turn-based game, right?
Right.
They spend their turns, like, stealing Roach from you, even when it's unbuffed. Shows you how good a card it is, even after it's done as deck thinning. That's pretty silly.
Yeah. There you go. Funny story about Roach. When the game first came out, there's a Hearthstone streamer, Noxious, and he came over and he and I had this really lively debate on what was better for Skellig at the time, Morkvarg or Roach, and so it always thinks that, and Roach obviously made the list, and Morkvarg didn't. So there we go.
Why not run both?
Right now, exactly, I did, but
silly question.
Ugly.
Especially now that they can both get locked. Run both. There you go. Problem solved.
Done. Hey.
As a fun side note, I reckon we only got time to finish this, but I made a deck in Francesca where I would copy, like, Milva into Roach, so I would get Roach in hand, or I would keep Roach in the mulligan, and then I would operate a Roach, so I would have multiple cards to mulligan away with Francesca while giving them a useless Roach. It's pretty funny, like, seeing 4 Roaches on the board.
That's pretty good. That's pretty funny. Now, do you have any of your decks on Gwent DB?
I posted, like, the dry deck that I won with the Passiflora, but I'm going back to the drawing board and experimenting with the decks because I don't really see the point in posting minor variations on popular deck archetypes. It's like, I can let other people do that.
So go check it out, everybody, on Gwent DB. Go look for Codexal's decks. He's fantastic. So Eggless, we just talked about it. You look at this, Roach, Eggless on our list are pretty much in the same spot, so we have a lot of similarities there. We're starting to see a lot of the same cards here. I think my number 2 and number 1 are way different than yours, if I remember correctly. So this might be fun. Number 2 for me was Ciri. Ciri. I just my version of Skellige was basically resource. I'm a big resource management guy, resource control, more cards. Ciri fits in almost any kind of hand control archetype where you can 1 or 2 cards makes a difference, and Ciri is one of those cards that just keeps on giving value if it's a Roach draw or if it's just obviously if you don't get her in round 1 and she has her drawbacks. But I just love Ciri. I know it's gonna be my personal thing. I just really love the fact that she gives you hand control.
I definitely can see why she's stronger. In certain archetypes, she is undoubtedly strong. Like, the problem for Ciri in my mind is that she excels in situations where you can win round 1 without using her, and use her in round 2, and then ideally, if you're somehow like Nilfgaard, you can throw her away in round 3 and be like, ha, I got an extra card, fantastic,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are quite a lot of deck archetypes that just don't excel at winning round 1, like, compared to other ones. Like, like Henselt is just gonna force them out. Like, if you're playing a Henselt yourself, by all means, you can run Ciri, but they also tend to like the 2-round people because they just have huge point potential, right? Yeah, like for me, Ciri is just sometimes just too awkward to play to be one of the strongest cards in my mind. It's a good card. It's a lot better now that you can't kill it with Yorvith.
Yes, exactly. Or Radovid.
Oh yeah, good old Radovid.
That was annoying. Your number 2, Avalok.
Yeah, so this is what I was saying about like one of the spies is on the top of my list. I think the only reason, well, sorry, the main reason why this is so high up on the list is that monsters have no other form of card advantage inbuilt into their faction. It's really hard to justify a list without Avalok, like because you just tend to lose out on card advantage and then just lose the game based off that. Like it's so
Actually,
auto include.
we're kind of similar there. I mean, I think that you're 100% right. I think, but it's odd though. Both our number 2s centered around card advantage.
Sorry, I lost you there for a bit. Still with me?
It's. I mean, we had different cards, but it's funny that both of our number 2s centered around card advantage.
The main thing that's different though for me is that like monsters tends to run like, either a lot of musters or lots of cards that are very similar. So it doesn't really matter what card you draw, and you want to pull out more of those resources from your deck. Like Ciri doesn't actually provide that; she provides card advantage, but Avalok allows you to pull out more cards to form up your combos. That's why like it allows consume monsters to get off their combos so reliably, or it allows you to maximally exploit the musters of weather monsters and be like, I'm playing 3 musters, now I can draw my gold cards,
Oh, I agree. No, I totally agree with you. I just thought it was at least that similarity was we picked the cards we picked because of card advantage. But you're right. Avalok has much more depth than Ciri does. And now number 1 for me is, I'm probably going to shock you with this one, but number 1 for me, kind of like you did at number 10, but number 1 for me are Crone's Witchers. I just think that you know what I'm talking. Just the big point booms that those cards give you, I think are just some of the most powerful early game, late game wins that you can get. So for me, it's the Crone Witcher sets are number 1.
Interesting. No, I'm not that shocked. I would say that like the main thing is that judgment in my mind is meta dependent, which is interesting because like you could argue like, hey, what cards should just be able to stand alone on their own value? Like they give so much value, they're really strong. But in the past, the game was so much more card advantage focused. People would give up rounds to get even 1 or 2 cards of advantage. Whereas these days, people are so much more focused on winning round 1, which means that the monster player is incentivized to keep playing and, in fact, play their low tempo plays like Neckers and any Foglets like straight after the Crones. So the Crones are used to set up their combo pieces later on, which means they're good, right? But it's not like the good old days of playing out 22-point Crones and being like, oh, you have to pass now because I'm going to get 3 cards of advantage because you can't overcome that very quickly. It's a different meta. Like, people want to go deep, so Crones are kind of a bit weaker. Like, that's cool. I like them this way.
I like that. Yeah, that's great insight. Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. Your number 1, First Light.
Yeah, it's just the whole also include thing for me. Like, it also like feeds into that whole aspect of it's a major mechanic of the game, right? Weather is just a major mechanic. Like when you're climbing, you're gonna have to face weather quite a lot. You better run First Lights.
Yeah, no, you're right. And H comes in with last patch. I had a skeleton deck that thinned to exactly 0 cards. Avalok screwed me over multiple times. Had to jump through hoops to play around it. So there's somebody really supporting your Avalok number 2 pick.
Like
yeah,
the fact,
I remember that. Yeah, the deck thinning series.
The fact that gold only worth 8 points is just ridiculous. Like that's just silly.
So we have 5
could
cards.
Be a 10 point.
Of our top 10, we have 5 cards the same.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Like, so which ones were different? You didn't have Avalok. You didn't have Spies. You didn't have Saskia.
And I didn't have King of Beggars or Dagon.
King of Beggars or Dagon. Huh. Interesting.
No, you picked a better list. Like when I saw your list, I was like, oh yeah, that's much better. Yeah. I mean, I had Priestess of Freya, which that shouldn't be there. I had Gigny, which I can kind of argue that still could be there. Siri, obviously not. So yeah, you had a much better list. So
Uh, For me, Geralt Igni would probably be like 12th on the list ish. Like, I mean, maybe 13th, but I mean, I omitted the Ryehead Dragoon, and Dragoon I think is one of the best cards in the game, like easily, because it's just silly. And like Spear Tip omitted, Caretaker, Isengrim, like Shani, like these are all just fantastic cards.
oh yeah. So what we're gonna do is we are going to, for everybody watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching this video. There'll be more coming. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna start doing daily clips or highlights of the show, not necessarily the whole show, or do the whole show and then also highlights. So I figured out how we're gonna do that. Codex and I are gonna talk. So everybody on YouTube that are watching this video, Shifu the Card signing out. Codex, you want to say anything to our YouTube fans?
Well, thanks for watching, guys, and hope you enjoyed the broadcast. And hopefully, I'll see you on other evenings.
All right. So that was, for everybody watching on Twitch, that was just something Codex will